All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. You are here for mock interview number 118, featuring a product manager. My name is Albert of Albert's List, and I will be your host today. Albert's List is a job search organization focused on teaching job search skills, side hustle skills, as well as AI skills for the future, with the intent of creating a workforce that never has to find a job again and has opportunities come to them. You're here today for our unique mock interview experience focused on teaching mock interviewing skills and interviewing skills in general, which translate into the real world, especially in a competitive market like we have right now. Usually we have Corey Hiramoto. He's the founder of CareerShakers.com. I encourage you to go look for him as well. And he is somebody who can also teach job interviewing. So the way these mock interviews work, we have found a candidate. His name is Joshua. He's a transitioning business analyst whom you'll hear from in a really quick moment. The way that it works is I will ask the questions, Josh will give the answers, and I will give feedback. For those of you who are also in the chat, you are more than welcome to give feedback and also ask your questions as well, whether they be interview related or whether they are related to the job at hand. So if you have any questions and you want to put Joshua on the hot seat, you are more than welcome to. And Joshua, if you have a chance to as well, feel free to drop your LinkedIn into the webinar chat so others can connect with you. And if you are a hiring manager for a product management role within LinkedIn, and you have a referral, please also take time to note that Josh is open for opportunities and he is happy to probably take your connection. So without further ado, we're going to get started here. And before we get started, the way that I like to, and we like to run these mock interviews is before we get started, I want Josh to introduce himself and give a little non-promotional introduction. Talk a little bit about what it is that you do now, what it is that you're looking for, and what type of opportunities you would be open to. So Josh, I'm going to give the floor over to you.
Thanks, Albert. Yeah, I'm currently taking Albert's Job Search Bootcamp. Highly recommend that if you're considering a career change or looking for a new job. So Albert can give you more information on that. As for me, I have a varied background in terms of working for different industries and different education certifications and whatnot. Um, Worked for the past decade or so as a business analyst, which is a vague term. The type of business analysis that I do works with a little bit of data sometimes, but primarily I am a translator between the business and technology. So business will need a change to their internal software systems. I'll work with the business to put that into actionable items that technology team can understand and work with. And if the technology team has any questions, I will be the voice or representative of the business for that technology team. And other duties is required. Currently based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the western side of the state, but looking to relocate to kind of a larger city in the U.S. Southeast, but open to wherever there's a good opportunity. Also very interested in moving to a product management role. For me, it leverages a lot of the same skill sets that I use as a business analyst in terms of facilitation and collaboration, but I see it as a step up, kind of taking more of an ownership and strategic role in terms of product development, and also a little more client facing as opposed to technical focus, which is some of the stuff I've done before.
Awesome. Wonderful. So there's a good introduction. So if anybody is offering a role or has a connection to a role that links to this type of experience that Joshua has, I encourage you to reach out. He shared his LinkedIn in the chat, and I also will go back and forth between his resume and the job description. So today's job description is with a company called OneCloud, located out of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not a company that I'm familiar with, though I would probably presume it is in the cloud computing space. And so we're going to start with our first question today. It's good to have you here today, Joshua. And We saw your resume and we really liked what it is that we saw that you were able to translate your product skills or your business analyst skills into product requirements. So tell us a little bit about your product management experience. We noticed that you did have some titles that were different, but we would love to know more about where you have crossover with product management.
Sure. So I've actually held the title of acting product manager for about a year in 2018, which really piqued my interest in moving into a product manager role full time. From there, started attending Pittsburgh Product Camp and taking various courses in product management, including a couple of certifications. So what I do as a business analyst has a lot of transferable skill sets in terms of working with different sets of stakeholders, both the technical side and the business side. You have to translate conversations into what each set of stakeholders can understand, and also be a voice for the other group of stakeholders. So explaining complex technical challenges to the business and also really explaining what the business needs to the development teams. So that involves really understanding the customer and what they need, which is a core aspect of product management. And realistically, what can you accomplish? So using some product project management skills as well.
Wonderful. And so, this year-long experience that you had at the York Services Group is sounds like where you had that product management experience. Have you had any other product management experience since in the past, let's say, 2 to 3 years?
In terms of title, not directly,
Okay.
but I have been a product owner at a previous company in a contract role. So that was basically setting the direction for a feature team and signing off on features, working with other product owners and developers to basically deliver upon a backlog. In some of my um, extracurricular activities, I've kind of taken some of the approach in terms of product manager. For example, I was the membership chair, membership advisor for Pittsburgh Young Professionals. So in that role, I had a really had an opportunity to do some research into who our members were and our potential members and help steer the board towards delivering programs and opportunities that could really position Pittsburgh Young Professionals as a product that people would want to participate and sign up for.
Okay. Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and cease the interview hat. I'm going to put on the feedback hat. So, the thing I noticed, I think, about how you answered that question, I think what was good is that you've called out product management experience within your areas of your career. What I would love to have seen is specific call outs. So, for example, if you were at Ascendant as your senior business analyst role, mention that you were a product manager there and that you did specific product management activities, whether it was influencing the roadmap and leveraging the roadmap, working with engineers, working with marketers, figuring out the strategy. You don't necessarily need to go into what exactly you did there because it's not necessarily a star question, but it's more of a storytelling question. So it sounds like you were a product manager first, right, at York Services Group?
So I was actually, yeah, I was a business analyst. The product manager that I was working for got a diagonal promotion, and I ended up filling in for a year, pretty much until the division I was working with was bought out by the next company.
Okay. Okay. So so I do see that you have this as your first bullet point. And so if there's anything that you can add here possibly around results, which I will ask about here in a moment, that would be great. If any of the product managers who are on the webinar chat want to offer their own feedback to the answer, I'm always willing to take that too. Feedback for one is feedback for all. So let's go to the next question. Tell me a little bit about a key product feature or a product enhancement that you came up with. What was the impact of that feature?
That's a good question.
You were a product manager for a year, right? So no doubt you probably came up with something.
Yeah, so one of the things I was working on, I kind of started when I was a business analyst and kind of saw it through to completion, was a compliance project that basically simplified and automated some of the workflow. Um, at the time, the company that I was working for dealt with state licenses, both in terms of the business having a license to operate in that state, as well as licenses for individual employees or contractors with that was operating in a certain capacity within each state. So you basically had a whole bunch of tracking and requirements for all these different licenses, both at the company level and the individual investigator level. Um, that was being maintained on a multitude of spreadsheets by the person that was handling compliance matters. I worked with her to automate that into a feature where instead of being kind of tracked across different spreadsheet, it was actually integrated into the case management and tracking system. So that way, um, kind of going along with the theme of automation and improving the applications, um, we were able to kind of consolidate that and help to give an opportunity to streamline the process. Um, the one thing that I did learn from that was transition and actually getting the user to use the product. So this is kind of a lessons learned experience where we focused on the product and the end state, but we didn't necessarily consider the transition in terms of getting all the data into the system, which would have either had to been manually input or entered in through the database. So that created some challenges in terms of getting the user to actually use the feature. So that is definitely one to take away from that experience that if you can build a great feature, that's great, but you also need to consider how the user will get to the point where they can actually use the feature.
Wonderful. So that's a star question. Situation, task, action, result. I like that you did tell most of the story and most of that method. I think it would have been good to know, I think, which company it was at. So which company was this one at?
This was at York Services Group.
York Services Group. Fantastic. Okay. So mentioned that it was at the company York Services Group and that you had a compliance project that simplified workflow. And tell the story a little bit about why exactly the new product was required, right? So you want to tee that up as well. Um, and you teed that up well in terms of the tasks and the actions you took. And then you went into results and it was sort of it wasn't as organized as I was thinking where that may have been a thing, right? You mentioned how you consolidated and you gave opportunity to streamline the process. And then you went into a lesson, which is good, although it wasn't necessarily the impact of it. So you may position that instead as saying the impact was that we were able to consolidate and give an opportunity to streamline the process, but also you were able to get users to use the product and you saw an increase in 10 to 15% adoption. So enumerating your lessons also helps that way too, because product management is a very impact-driven role. And so that part's important. Michelle says, tie-in certification experience. Any projects where you had to create roadmaps, etc., for product management? Saima says, I'm just wondering if the answer to the product feature question is also touching on user experience aspects. So, so the user experience aspects is kind of it could be that, but it's also potentially a follow-up question, especially if my focus is on user experience and less so the feature-rich or customer retention or adoption type of thing. Um, and yeah, Aline says the right thing. Include metrics and or quantify answer to highlight your impact. So going back to that, if you were to answer that question just from the impact side, let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's practice that piece, in fact. So knowing that you built a key product feature or product that you came up with, how would you describe the impact that it made? So we went through the first piece already. You had a compliance project. You had many state licenses that you consolidated. You worked with a person to automate that feature. Give me the impact.
Actually, that was um,
You can make it up here. I might not know any better.
okay.
And in that case, be reasonable about that number, right? What you may say, and I'll just, I think, help you out a little bit here. You may say that as a result of our ability to automate the process and automate the feature and streamline the process, we ended up saving 10 hours per week with that product. And we also saw 15% more adoption with a customer satisfaction of 6.7 out of 8, however it might be that you measure it. And that, at the end of the day, enabled us to increase our revenues or save costs by 15% on the bottom line. So that kind of thing. Cool. Wonderful. Thank you all for contributing to that. So let's move into the next question. If we hired you tomorrow here at OneCloud, knowing what you know about our product, what product changes or enhancements would you propose? What are the pros and the cons, and what challenges might we encounter along the way?
So having looked at the product and given that the company is geared towards communication platforms, um, what I would recommend is a more robust help feature. Um, Basically, incorporate a chatbot into the product. If anyone has any issues, that they could reach out with any questions um, or any feedback. This is for me. I see this as being a good opportunity. If something isn't working, hear directly from the users, and we could track that better and kind of use that as one metric for user feedback.
Okay, so let's re-explore that one. Um, you were saying that if we hired you tomorrow, you would implement. So did you state something that you would implement, or you would focus on user feedback? No, no wrong answer here. I just want you to justify it.
Yeah, so for me, would probably focus on user feedback. The help
Okay.
feature being one aspect of that, but ultimately trying to gain kind of more direct exposure to people who use the product according to different personas and um, as they say, most important product decisions don't happen within four walls. You need to go out and actually interact with users. So um, the help desk, the kind of help chat feature would be one aspect of that. Customer interviews and
Were you able to take a look at our product line? And what in particular, which product line are we looking at here? I don't think we're looking at one in particular, but were you able to take a look at one particular product line that piqued your interest?
um,
I'm just noticing here, going out of interviewer mode, that they have contact center, events and videos, integration add-on, alerts, and unified communications as a service. So I don't think that this one was in particular, this job description had something in particular. Um, but I wanted to just know if you wanted to pick on anyone in particular.
yeah, that's a fair call out. I
Okay.
did not look as thoroughly as their product offerings as I probably should have. So
Okay.
good, good lesson learned and good call out for future interviews going forward.
Okay. Interviewing 101. So let's go with a let's go with a feature here that maybe we do want to work with. So let's talk about um, one that maybe everyone can understand, right? Events and video. Video meetings, webinars, room schedulers. If there is a product feature that you could add or that you could add or enhance, what would you add? And if you think maybe the product is perfect, actually, let's make this even simpler. I want to go with a product that you are familiar with so that you can go with something. So let's say we go out of one cloud. Let's say, tell me about a product that if you had a chance to become the product manager too, what product changes or enhancements would you propose? What are the pros and cons, and what are the challenges that we would encounter? Any product that you know that you're passionate about.
So one product that I would be interesting to tweak with or adjust would be Google Maps. I
Mhm.
enjoy geography. I kind of enjoy learning and exploring and heavily use Google Street View in lieu of actual travel and vacations sometimes. So I enjoy kind of the learning part of that, getting to see different areas of the country and different countries that I haven't been before. So the one thing that I would do to enhance that would be to come up with a more immersive experience. So some sounds that you might hear in terms of background music, perhaps the opportunity to like click on a building and or hover over a building, click on it and kind of see more, see a quick summary or more information. You kind of do that to a certain degree if you click on it. But I'd say kind of more with the approach of just kind of a quick bullet point summary so you can kind of learn more about it and kind of get a feel for the area more naturally.
Okay. So that sounds like the feature that you would propose. What are the
Yes.
pros and cons of the feature, and what would Google encounter if, what challenges would Google encounter if they tried to implement your feature?
So we'll go with incorporating audio background. One challenge would be defining what is typical audio for an area. Because you have to collect a lot of data in terms of the visual aspect, some of which could be years old, and you have things changing. Um, so that's one part of it. Actually presenting accurate information that's representative of an area. Um, Another potential issue with that would be kind of increased data, increased bandwidth that is required for that. So you'd have to basically pay more um, in terms of server and um, bandwidth used for that. Another concern is that some people may not necessarily want that, whereas others might not, and other people have different preferences on what they would want to listen to. So coming up with an approach that satisfies all the different user groups with different opinions on that would be a challenge.
What would be the business value of integrating audio into Google Maps?
I could see business value in if you are, let's say, next to a popular restaurant or something,
Hmm.
or a restaurant or another establishment that wants to promote themselves and drive traffic and kind of drive ad revenue. Um, what they what they could do, one possibility would be to simulate kind of people talking or sounds that are kind of more typical. That way, the ears and people's attention are drawn to that. They're kind of more interested, and that way they're more likely to visit that establishment when they actually go there, which shows a tangible benefit to the advertising money they're paying for.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hop out of interview mode. I think that the main lesson obviously is get to know the product, but more so, I think being able to pivot is always good. And the piece to this one that's really important is leveraging your level of creativity to sync with business strategy, and then most importantly, being able to convince your audience that you believe a product feature is necessary so that a product can have the necessary features to be powerful. And so, in answering this question, it's not only knowing, well, why would you add a particular product into the suite of solution, this kind of solution, but also backing it up with, I think what you have done really well so far is talk about user trends and figuring out what it is that the users want, but then also connecting it back to the business. Because even though Google Maps may not necessarily be a money maker, it does go into Google's interest in being able to catalog the world, and being able to catalog the world also gives a business a chance to be on maps as a place that somebody can click to see what is available there. So that's a good important way to important way to look into something here. And so the next question I want to ask is something that is very similar in this nature, but is flipped in a different way. So let's say we hired you and you wanted to implement a feature like audio for Google Maps, or you want to implement something different for OneCloud. Um, and the executive team is hesitant. What are the things that you would do to gain buy-in so that this product feature can be implemented? Use an
First,
example if you'd like.
yeah, so the first thing to do would be to understand what is driving the executives, what their priorities are, and how to speak to them in a language. So, for example, for the automation of license tracker that I discussed in the previous question, um, there was some hesitancy about kind of a large scale project like that when there were other business needs. So the approach I took was to work with the primary stakeholder, understand how their time was being spent in how much time their time was being spent in the manual tracking of the licenses and whatnot, and kind of put that into quantifiable measures that the stakeholder, the executive stakeholder could understand, and how freeing up that person can um, allow them to focus on other priorities that are the executive stakeholders' business. And then walking through mock-ups and prototypes of what the feature would look like, rather than it's an idea, kind of some abstract idea per se. They were actually able to see this, and they thought it looked interesting because how stylistically it was similar to the other applications. So that kind of pulled them in and helped warm them up to the idea.
Okay. So you would give them sort of a model of what it might look like, learn to speak their language, and yeah. Okay. So, moderate answer, I would say. When it comes to this is a hypothetical question, and probably one that would actually be real because as a product manager, it is your job to loop people in and really get an idea of what the temperature is so that you can be convincing in the way that you can be convincing. Um, Early on in your answer, I felt like you were asking me rather than telling me. So, as a product leader, I want you to communicate with that you're convinced that implementing a feature like audio in Google Maps is going to be the next best thing ever because it's going to absolutely change the geography and topography game and create customer experiences unmatched because it means you don't have to travel somewhere. You can literally hop on Google Maps and it'll feel like you're there. And if you don't feel like this is an important feature, well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that it's going to transform tourism because it's going to give people who can't travel to a new place the opportunity to be somewhere when they're not actually there. It's going to give businesses the opportunity, that Italian restaurant, that opportunity to showcase their food and give you the ambiance to the point where you can literally smell the pasta even though you're 5,000 miles away. And it's going to transform customer experience in the following three ways. And the way that I'm going to help you understand it, Mr. Executive, is it's going to drive bottom line for our Google for Business suite. And that's going to help us gain an additional however many $1 million a year, however you want to swing it, right? So as is, I think, the case always with a product management role, you want to be able to back your findings up, even if they're wildly like out there and out of left field. You need to be able to showcase that you know what you're talking about and that you're willing to die on that sword, because many product managers are. If you're a product manager in the chat, uh, please let us know that you do feel that way about some product features, because I know that product managers that I've met, at least as a product marketing manager personally, can be really passionate about that. Any thoughts on what I just said there?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think it's definitely a shift in mindset for
Hmm.
me, having been kind of an order taker to and just kind of managing
Yeah.
stuff that's thrown at me to kind of more taking a more enthusiastic and proactive approach to things.
Yeah, and same you said sounds like evangelizing is part of the job. I would say to some degree it is. Another part of it is being able to just lead and look at industry trends and know that something could be a priority. So that's going to be important as well. All right, so let's go to the next question, which is also going to be along the lines of what we just talked about. Imagine you need to do a product demo for one of our potential customers. And this could be one cloud or this could be a product that you choose. What product features would you want to highlight?
So it depends upon what the customers or clients' priorities would be. So understanding where they're coming from and what what is driving them, what their North Star is. So that will determine the direction of how I present or demo the features. For example, when I was kind of working with a division that was bought out from the previous parent company to a new parent company, and I had to demonstrate how the internal software suite worked to the executives of the purchasing company. I understood that they were looking to get kind of a general feel of the division and its capabilities, and particularly were interested in kind of efficiency and how they could really focus on leveraging people's time best in order to make the most money possible. So by that line, kept it a high level because they were executives and didn't necessarily want to go on a field by field basis. But I tried to illustrate or point out features that save time, and also one of the advantages of the software suite that we were using was is its integrated nature in terms of cases, pretty much everything that the users need being tied together. So illustrated that and how it was able to help the employees do their jobs and more efficiently, and therefore generate more money in a short amount of time than creating forms manually, for instance.
Okay. So if you were to do a product demo for one of the potential customers, it sounds like you would focus on what the customer wants versus maybe the features that you think would be important to highlight.
Correct.
Okay. Now, let's say the customer doesn't know what it wants. What do you do from there? But they know that your solution may be very well the thing that they might be looking for based on a blog they wrote or because let's say, I'm the customer. My friend Carl met with me the other day. We went out to lunch, and he says that Joshua's product is the best thing ever. And he said that I should do a demo with you.
So first I would ask some clarifying questions. What's important to you? What drives your business? What are your core values? What are your biggest pain points? Which is obviously what we want to try to solve with
Data
the
driven.
software.
Yep.
Yeah,
Excellent. All right. Good. Good. It's important to be data driven, especially in the tech world.
yeah.
All right. Anybody else with questions that they may want to ask? Um, I see a lot of good feedback. They're cheering you on in the audience here. Wonderful. So let's go with another star question. Tell me about a time when you educated internal teams about a product. How do you explain technical topics to sales teams, and how do you measure success?
So one of the kind of biggest or first examples that came to mind was in that transition role. Because not only did I demonstrate the software to the new executives, but also was basically in charge of transitioning all of the company's applications, phone systems, and internet off of the previous company's hosting to the new company's hosting. So that involved switching from Gmail-based email to Outlook, for example. Uh, so what I did was first went through the process myself on make sure that I understood clearly what needed to happen, switched my email over kind of as the first person to do so from Gmail to Outlook and documented it step by step with screenshots and kind of created a instructional document. I had select group of users who could give me some early feedback, call them early adopters or beta testers who went through the document, see if it made sense and give me any feedback. Hey, this is clear. Hey, can you explain this a little bit better? And then iteratively improve the document. And then once that was at a good point, shared it out and was available to answer any questions. So you can explain you can explain something as best you can in writing, but when you have hundreds of people trying to walk through a process, different skill levels, you're gonna run into questions. So being available to answer those, and then in the questions that you get, kind of note down what they are. That way, if you get similar questions, you can react quickly or even update the documentation for the second batch. That way they see them.
Okay. So how do you measure success when you've educated internal teams?
Um, in
It
that,
sounds like you answered how to explain technical topics and how you did your education, but I want to know how you know it's successful.
so in our case, it is have all the users migrated to the new email platform, for instance, are the new phones. Um, so basically, user adoption.
Hmm. Okay, good, good. I think this is the case, right? Structured answers. So answer the question one question at a time. If you need to clarify which question you're answering, that also helps a ton too, especially as you figure out what it is that uh, that is being asked for. So the tell me about a time is a star method question, followed by a fact question of your own philosophies of how you explain technical topics, and then measuring success being the same. So you want to stay organized like that. All right. Any questions from the webinar chat so far? Any questions from the audience? Let us know. I'm going to do one final question here. Probably a question I would ask, like I've asked many times on these mock interviews before. Tell me about a company that does product management really well and why you admire them and what you would bring from that company into our organization. And this could be one cloud, this could be a company that you choose if you don't know enough about one cloud.
So like a company that does really well in terms of product management is Google, based on how their how prolific their applications are. For instance, Gmail and Google Documents being popular products. So the breadth and scale of that, as compared to Microsoft, which was the standard for many years, I think is a testament to that. Um, Messages to the user. So if you're running into an error or something, it's fairly clearly communicated. um, and so forth, and the fact that they are innovating um, and seem to be incorporating user feedback into new products. They're also styled very fairly well, so I think they're visually appealing and incorporate good UX. Um, I, in terms of what to incorporate from Google, I think it is kind of the mission of trying to deliver the best and high quality products that people want to use given the choice. So kind of serving as a benchmark compared to other products per se. So setting the gold standard per se.
Okay, cool. So good answers. I think you covered the features that you thought were interesting and thought were good. I think a little bit more meat on how you would bring that to our company would be really helpful. Just because, bringing that heritage over in terms of ideas is one thing, but then being able to truly make meaning from it, I think, is another. And so, I would say that, I would say like an incorporation of sort of a plan in there would be helpful. And I think just overall, when I look at this interview today, which I mean, you're in front of 27, 28 people, it's important to know your answers, right? So, having a answer bank, or at least practice your answers beforehand, or having written down your answers to jog your memory, because you've had a lot of really great experience so far, is going to uh, be extremely helpful since you've been working for a greater part of 10 years now. So cool. That concludes it for my questions for today. Um, does anyone in the webinar chat have any questions? If not, everybody please give Josh a round of applause. He did step in front of everyone here and provide interviewing education for us all. Well, let's see. Okay, we've got one here. Oh, nice. Okay. Aline says, OneCloud recently announced OneCloud CX, an AI-driven customer experience platform. How would you embrace AI into the responsibility? How have you embraced AI? How would you integrate AI into the responsibilities for your new role? I like that a lot. Let's work with that one. Then let's do that one, and then we'll end it after.
Sure. So AI, something I've used on a personal level to kind of draft things up or arrange my thoughts more effectively than I would on my own. So saves time. Um, I know professionally at work we use Copilot integration for Microsoft, which will take notes from meetings and um, kind of send out notes, provide a summary. So that is one opportunity. I think just sort of playing around and seeing what things kind of we can try and beta test. It's still an emerging technology, so there are a lot of use cases I'm sure we haven't even discovered as of yet.
Okay. But how would you integrate AI into the responsibilities of your new role?
So for me, it would be, I guess, monitoring the backlog, product backlog for AI related features, ensuring that AI is used ethically and in compliance with any laws. Um, Currently working at a financial institution that is particularly important to comply with different regulations and so forth.
Okay.
Um, Yep.
Good. So again, following the line of questioning, Aline let us know how that answer sounded for you. You want to be able to answer all the questions in mind, and I know that this is more of a visionary question, so we want to focus uh on how you see AI being incorporated into everything. All right. So with that said, everybody, I guess I've already asked, but you can give Joshua another round of applause. Um, Please connect with Joshua if you found that his interviewing has been good for you or that his experience matches your background. If you're also looking to do a mock interview, please feel free to email me with your resume and a job description, and we'll go set up a time in the future for you to do a mock interview with us as well. We have also a lot more events that you can attend, including other mock interviews, featured webinars, as well as economic readouts as the job market evolves. Please check our Eventbrite page or the meetup community that you came from, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you all so much. I wish you a wonderful Thursday evening, and we look forward to seeing you again. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.